ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकं चक्षुरुमितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मायं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तां सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजन सहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगना ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितंश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी विश्वानुसुत देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming. First, couple of quick announcements. So I will post Sumnima's phone number in the chat. Sumnima is from Nepal. And if you need class recordings, I request you to please send a request to Sumnima. I mean, you can always send a request to me, but at times I am occupied and may not be able to answer to you right away. So Sumnima is pretty diligent. She will respond to you right away, except for the timing difference. So Sumnima is physically in Nepal. So except for that time difference, she's pretty diligent in responding to your messages. So please send a request to her. She has all the class recordings. The second point, those who are in the process of listening to past recordings, I request you to put a diligent endeavor to get caught up. Otherwise, you will be always be behind. So try your best to get caught up. I am anyway trying to get you caught up on a shortened manner. So try your best. The third point, I will bring up on screen that at batch number 5, from 26th January onwards, it's a Sunday or Sunday classes, 9:30 a.m. onwards, Toronto time. The nectar of instruction will start. So 26th January onwards, nectar of instruction will take about 10 classes. Then from 6th April will be nectar of devotion, about 10 classes. Then Shishopanishad, about 4 classes. And then mid-July, Srimad Bhagavatam will start. So many of you are going to join simultaneously this batch number 5. So I request you to please get all these books. If you are planning to get Srimad Bhagavatam, by all means, first connect with me. But all these other books, please get the books and we'll go from there. So if those of you who have signed up to join this other batch also, you will get a message from me to print a template. If you don't hear from me, then by all means, please connect with me. I'll be sending the template out sometime this week. And those of you who are interested, please connect with me because you will need these extra books and you will need a template to print for this other class. So it will be simultaneously running. So you'll be attending the Bhagavad Gita classes like now you are attending on Saturdays. And then on Sundays, you'll attend this additional class. So a question may come up like, what are these other books? So essentially, Prabhupada said that there are 4 basic books, which is Bhagavad Gita, Nectar of Instruction, Nectar of Devotion, and Shishopanishad. The philosophy is in Bhagavad Gita and Shishopanishad. And the practice of the philosophy is in Nectar of Instruction and Nectar of Devotion. So yes, these are very, very important books. And of course, you will need Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna himself. So irrespective of you all, whether you attend these other classes for these other books or not, when Srimad Bhagavatam will start in batch number 5 in mid-July, I will anyway ask all of you to attend the initial 2-3 classes so you get a good overview of Srimad Bhagavatam. We keep talking about Bhagavatam, so you should also get an overview at some point of time. And therefore, I will get all of you to join at least the overview classes. So take a snapshot of what we have on screen. Any questions, comments, realizations? All right. Yeah, so Megha, you can by all means join these classes in your current batch number 6 and 7 after Bhagavad Gita is done. So in this batch, Bhagavad Gita will be completed about a year from now, sometime in January 2026. And then Nectar of Instruction, Nectar of Devotion, Shishopanishad, Srimad Bhagavatam will follow exactly like how it is going on for batch number 5. So batch number 5, Bhagavad Gita is ending in the next 2 weeks, and then the next scriptures are starting. But if you are able to join the other classes, then it's a little fast forward for you. But there's no pressure. By all means, you can join in this batch 6 and 7 when your Bhagavad Gita is complete. Megha?
That is helpful, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Okay, so today we will cover Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, the last set of verses 36 to 43. And then I will also discuss the spiritual endeavor for Bhagavad Gita 3.34. It's going to be an eye-opener when we discuss 3.34. And I'm not sure if we'll be left with any time for me to answer inquiries. If we get time, I will answer some inquiries. Otherwise, next class, I will first answer all the inquiries because inquiries are getting piled up otherwise. And I will definitely answer all the inquiries. And we'll also discuss about the Prabhupada lecture endeavor that all of you did. Very nice endeavor. So I will discuss all of this as well. So have undivided attention. These verses that we'll cover today, chapter 3, verses 36 to 43, is section 4 of chapter 3. Title is Beware of Lust and Anger, meaning overcome lust, the main obstacle on the path of Karma Yoga. So this section is the most relevant section in today's times, which is Bhagavad Gita chapter 3 verses 36 to 43 for us sadhakas. Exactly the same way as we discussed in chapter 2 verses 54 to 72. So chapter 2 verses 54 to 72 also we discussed that have them engraved in you. As sadhaka, we should be practicing those verses on a day-to-day basis. And this chapter 3 verses 36 to 43 are identically very important to apply on a day-to-day basis because everybody is impacted with these anarthas of lust and anger. So here Krishna will explain that lust is the eternal enemy of living entities. And that lust does not reside in the female form. Rather, lust resides in the mind, the intelligence, the senses of all living entities, whether it's a male or female, whether it's animal form, doesn't matter, whatever be the life form, lust resides in mind, intelligence, and the senses of all living entities. To control lust, first we have to regulate our sense gratification, and simultaneously we have to situate ourselves on the spiritual platform. We will also hear short lecture extracts from His Grace Chaitanya Chandas because this is going to be a very heavy topic today. And of course, it's a standalone topic for those of you who are not yet caught up. This topic is a standalone and a very practical and a very important topic. So in 3.36, Arjuna will ask a question that, okay, I want to follow Karma Yoga, but by what force one is impelled to sinful activity? And Krishna will answer from 3.37 to 43 that lust is the eternal enemy. And Krishna will explain how one can control lust, meaning one controls lust by practice of intelligence and sense control. So sense control is internally, and intelligence is that you steer oneself on the spiritual platform. So it's a very important point to understand that one has to control or at least start by regulating your senses, then control the senses. So let's read the verses and we'll go from there. Mansi 3.36 translation.
Yes, Prabhuji. Give me 1 minute. 3.36, right?
Right.
Arjuna said, O descendant of Vrishni, by what is one impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force?
So if Arjuna did not ask this question in 3.36, then it will become a mandate for all of us to engage in all kinds of sensual enjoyment. Krishna goes on to say that control and kill this lust because lust is the biggest enemy. Abhishek Prabhu, 37 translation.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. 37. It is the Supreme Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with material modes of passion and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all devouring sinful enemy of this world.
So Krishna responds that it is lust only, which is born out of passion, which turns into wrath and anger, which is the eternal enemy of all living entity. This is all devouring, greatly sinful, and know this to be your greatest enemy. So I'll play Chaitanya Chanda's lectures in small chunks. These are very heavy lectures. It's all they are extracts that I'm playing. The important points. So the lectures are pretty long, more than 1-2 hours. I'm only playing important points that I want you all to listen directly from His Grace Chaitanya Chandas. And rest of the points I explain to you in simple language. So let's first hear the first part and take notes, and we'll come back to discuss this again and again.
Because we are tiny, we can, if we try to enjoy ourselves, we get only tiny happiness. But When we try to enjoy separately, there's another consequence that comes. That desire to enjoy separate from Krishna disconnects us from Krishna. And then we come under illusion. And we seek enjoyment where there is no enjoyment. So we seek enjoyment in this world, in the objects of this world, and that causes bondage and suffering. So how do we come out of this bondage and suffering? For that, we have to inquire about spirituality. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, this material creation is created by the Lord to give facility to the living conditioned souls to fulfill these lustful propensities. And when completely baffled by prolonged lustful activities, the living entities begin to inquire about their real position. So when they are completely baffled, then they begin to inquire. So, Athato Brahma Jigyasa. That is what Prabhupada will talk about in the next verse. So when will a person do Brahma Jigyasa? Actually, as long as the person is caught up in doing Indriya Trupti Jigyasa, the person will have no impetus for doing Brahma Jigyasa. Indriya Trupti Jigyasa means, oh, where will I get enjoyment here? I may get enjoyment here. I may get enjoyment here. So the whole culture, media, advertisements in today's society, they provide us with newer and newer avenues for Indriya Trupti Jigyasa. Oh, enjoy here, enjoy there, enjoy there. This is where you will enjoy. And sometimes nowadays on television there are 300 channels. And people who sit down, they think there must be at least one program that I will enjoy. And I start one program, this is boring. And switch to another channel. And switch to another channel, switch to another channel, switch to another channel. So, actually speaking, people, when they're watching TV, they're more eager when they are surfing channels than when they're watching channels. Because when they're surfing, they're expectant. Oh, maybe I'll get something better, something better, something better. But once they start watching, it's boring. It's not what I expected. It's not as enjoyable as I expected to be. So there will be 300 channels on the TV, but actually, happiness is not available on any channel. It is available. Happiness is actually available only on the Bhakti channel, and that is not there on television. Even if there are some programs which talk about Bhakti, just they themselves cannot make us happy. It is the Bhakti channel is our connection with Krishna. So yes, of course, if there are devotional programs coming from proper sources, we can watch them. But the important point is that the conditioned soul gets very excited. Yes, maybe this will make me happy. This will make me happy. So athato indriya trupti jigyasa. Let me see, where can I get happiness? Where can I get happiness? But after prolonged lustful activities, soul is completely baffled. There is no happiness in sense gratification. So I've tried so much. What should I do now? And at that time, maybe there is happiness somewhere else. That's what I need to inquire. And it is that point that Brahma Jigyasa begins.
Okay, what did he say? I don't know about you, but I have definitely surfed channels instead of watching. Okay, somebody?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji,
Hare Krishna.
we are seeking enjoyment where there is no enjoyment, and this is creating bondage.
Yeah. Okay, very
In,
good.
in our whole life, we are surfing for the happiness in the wrong direction.
Yeah. Okay, very good. What else?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. We also said that after prolonged sense gratification, then we're left baffled.
Yeah. Yeah, so we all have lived life in different species for at least 155 trillion years in this cycle of creation. So we all have gone through this and we all have been baffled now, and therefore we have come to Bhagavad Gita and spirituality. Okay, very good. What else did he say?
Prabhuji.
Go ahead.
So he also mentioned that the more we try to enjoy without Krishna, the further away we are taken.
Yeah, very good. That the more we try to enjoy separate of Krishna, it's just going to be baffling. Okay, now I'll play the second part. The second part is just a very short one, but makes a very important point. So let's hear and we'll come back to discuss this as well.
So Athato Brahma Jigyasa actually begins when we become frustrated with material enjoyment and start seriously seeking for spiritual enjoyment. So Prabhupada in a lecture to the hippies during one of the Rath Yatra festivals in America said, so all of you hippies, you're not very much appreciated in America. You're considered frustrated people. Okay, people think that, oh, you're all frustrated. But Prabhupada said, I appreciate all of you. So human life is meant to become frustrated.
Okay, what did he say?
Human life is meant to be frustrated.
Anybody in that situation?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, so when we get frustrated of the material world, that's when we say, no, happiness has to exist somewhere else. Because here it doesn't exist. Like, every time you try something and you end up hitting a wall, then you try a different route and you hit a wall. And it just doesn't give you anything. So therefore, Krishna says that lust is the enemy of the world that impels us to act sinfully. I mean, we think enemies as someone with guns, etc. But no, Krishna says lust is the enemy. It is lust that drives people to pick up guns and do all sorts of other things. So Krishna explains in following verses what kind of enemy is this lust and how does this enemy lust attack. So Krishna will give example that how lust covers a person. He will give 3 degrees of examples. Okay, let's see who can read. Deep Prabhu, 3.38 translation.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. As fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, or as the embryo is covered by the womb, the living entity is similarly covered by different degrees of this lust. Hare Krishna.
So here he is explaining degrees of lust covering. So he gives with an example. First is the fire smoke analogy refers to humans, that the nature of covering is very thin and very easily penetrable. That when smoke is there, you can blow away the smoke and kindle the fire. Now, the second example is a dust mirror. Generally, this covering is in animal species. Now, does not mean this does not apply to humans. No, if some humans are in greater degree of ignorance, then their covering will be more thicker, just as the dust mirror analogy for covering in animals. So the dust mirror analogy, it explains that the nature of covering is thick and tough to penetrate. So sometimes the dust may be so thick that one may not be able to see the mirror. And even when you are trying to clear, it will take you few rounds of cleaning to clear the dust out of the mirror. So for animals or even humans living like an animal, it will take some time to come to the higher level of consciousness. And then the third example given is of a womb child, that the child in mother's womb, refers to plants that the nature is super thick, meaning the covering nature is super thick, and the penetration is only possible after a long time. And again, it can also apply to humans whose ignorance is so very thick that their covering of on their mind, covering on top of the soul, is as like child in mother's womb, it will only take time for the child to come out. You can't do anything. Similarly, if somebody's ignorance is very, very thick, it will only take time for them to realize their level of ignorance. Just as the child in the womb is helpless, it cannot come out prematurely. It has to take its own time. So plants also, they cannot do any effort. Their effort is in terms of time. So Krishna is saying that lust covers everybody's intelligence in these different degrees. He's explaining the different degrees with these three analogies. Everybody on the same page before I play Chaitanya Chanda's lecture?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you. So I'll play Chaitanya Chanda's lecture where he will explain what exactly is lust. Is lust a thing like a tables and chairs, or is it a feeling? What exactly is lust? And we will have a heavy conversation on this, and I'll explain some practical points as well. So let's hear from Chaitanya Chandas.
So first is, what exactly is lust? Is lust a thing or is it a desire? That means, is there something called lust which is there out there, or it is just when I have some desire it is called as lust? So is lust a thing or is it just our own feeling? Actually it is both. What does it mean it is both? Krishna is here talking about lust as being a thing. He's saying, okay, this is the kind of covering, and he's referring to it as enemy. So that means there are lusty impressions which are stored in the mind, and there are lusty desires which are triggered in the mind. So lusty impressions means what? That we may have seen certain images, we may have heard of certain things, and those have created certain impressions which are there in the mind. So for example, in a small infant, at least from this life's point of view, they are not there, but in most people they are there. So this is the impressions which are there. Now different people may have been exposed to different degrees of lust. So lusty imagery, nowadays with the availability of internet porn, people may have so much garbage in their minds. So different people will have different levels of impressions, and these impressions are what are stored in the mind. So in that sense, these impressions are actually there. That's a thing which is there in the mind. Lust is a thing. But that thing, what does it do? That thing provokes us. And when it provokes us, then we get the feeling. So when I'm talking about a thing, it's not a thing like this hand, or it's not a thing like a table or something like that, not like a thing like a wall. It's not gross, it's subtle. But subtle things are also things. They are real. So feeling refers to, so based on that kind of thing, there is a certain thing, certain feeling that gets activated. So for example, if there were no lusty impressions in people's minds, then even if males and females saw each other, then they would not have so much agitation. But when there is lusty feelings are there, when male and female see each other, then there is agitation that happens. So this agitation, what is it the result of? It is the result of the impressions. So now the impressions, Krishna is telling, they are already there. We should not assume that we are pure devotee. We should assume that lusty impressions are there. But just because the impressions are there doesn't mean that we have to have those feelings and allow those feelings to take control of us. Those impressions will create certain feelings in our heart, but we can say no to those feelings. Just like when we are walking on the streets, we can't say that there should not be any hoardings which are obscene. That is the way the culture is in many places in the world, and the hoardings will be there. People will be dressing in provocative ways also. Now we can't stop that. That is a lusty stimulus that is there outside. But what we can do is, we can avoid exposing ourselves to it too much, and we can avoid succumbing to it, avoid getting controlled by it. So just as we understand that there can be external provocative stimuli which we prevent from controlling us. Similarly, there can be internal provocative stimuli which are the impressions of what we have exposed ourselves to in the past, which we can say no to when they start proposing themselves, when they start uh, prompting and pushing and pinching and punching and prodding us. Do this, do this, do this, do this. We can say no to that. So here Krishna is right now talking about lust as a thing. It is there in all living beings.
Okay, what did he explain? Quickly, we have a lot to cover.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj Prabhu.
So, Prabhu, one point is Prabhu has covered a chain reaction. So, when one sees something, there is an impression on the mind that provokes oneself and which results in a certain feelings which is getting activated, which is called lust.
Okay, very good. What else did he explain? A lot of heavy points he explained in short 3 minutes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Diksha, go ahead.
Prabhuji, he also mentioned that there are a lot of lusty stimulus in the external world also and also internally, and we must learn how to say no to them when it
Very
pokes
good.
us or it resurfaces.
Yeah, very good. This internal impressions, I'll speak in a few minutes. Okay, Nishan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
We can avoid exposing to lust by controlling our living.
Okay, very good. What else did he explain about lust?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Nancy, go ahead.
Lust is there already in mind, like from so many lifetimes.
Okay, very good. And what exactly is lust? What did he explain?
Mm.
Tara.
Sorry, Prabhuji, I was going to say, even though we have the impressions in our mind, we don't, and even though if it provokes our mind, we don't have to succumb to it.
Yeah, very good. Very good. I'll explain all that. Very good. Abhishek Prabhu.
So, Prabhuji said that lust is an impression which is stored in the mind.
Yeah, very good. So lust is both. It's a thing, not a gross thing like table chairs or something, but it's a subtle thing, and subtle things are also things, as well as lust is a feeling. And Monad Prabhu correctly described that there's a chain reaction happens. So almost all of you are from India or in India's zone. So you must have either heard this movie Yadein, and what Diksha pointed out about that we have these impressions in our mind from 155 trillion plus years. So if you have heard about this movie Yadein, or you must have heard the theme song of this movie. So the theme song of the movie goes Yade Hai Yade, and if I translate in English, it says, "Oh, these memories, I cherish these memories." But in the context of what we are reading and hearing from Krishna and Chaitanya Chandas, the Yade Hai Yade, the translation should be, damn those memories. Because it is these memories that are causing me not to progress on the path of spirituality. So if you see or hear emotional songs and your mind goes into La La Land, La La Land means the dhyayato, the imagination mode, means you are controlled by these past feelings and you are contaminated. When you become advanced, you may still see or hear the exact same, these emotional songs, etc. But these do not agitate you. This is the example of being satisfied within. Therefore, even when material enjoyment is perceived, the advanced devotee is not agitated because of being satisfied within by higher taste. So what Dara was explaining correctly, that yes, the impressions are there, but we don't have to succumb to those impressions. Succumb to those impressions means we don't have to act on those impressions. So we discussed in chapter 2 that pure devotees or spiritual masters are advanced, not because they don't get these in their mind. They also get the exact same thing, but the response is different. So pure devotee or spiritual master, when these negative anarthas arise in the mind, their instant response is get out, nothing doing. And that's the end of the story. But materialistic people, the moment they get these impressions awakened from within, or even if there is an external stimuli to awake the internal impression, the materialistic people will say, "Oh, welcome. I was waiting for you." So we have to come to the point of being like an elevator. So we are somewhere in between, and we have to move in the right direction, that when these memories are aroused, or anyway, you anyway have these impressions. Something or the other will make you remember those past impressions. But this is the greatest enemy on the path of spirituality. What does this covering do? So lust is a covering. The covering prevents us from having spiritual awareness because it binds us at the bodily enjoyment level. This covering, lust covering, makes us spiritually forgetful and materially desirous. So lust covers our spiritual identity and pushes us towards material illusions. So to cover your, or to control your lust, or to test that whether you are advanced or not, don't deliberately expose yourself to such emotional situations to test, oh, am I advanced or not? No, don't do that. But whenever such emotional situations happen by themselves, at that time you can test your spiritual advancement and make corrective actions. Questions, comments, realizations? All right. So in 3.38, Krishna describes the covering, the degrees of covering of lust. And in 3.39, Krishna will describe how this covering works. I'll again play Chaitanya lecture because this is going to be mind-blowing in terms of the covering the lust does. Mega 3.39 translation.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thus, the wise living entity's pure consciousness becomes covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire.
So Krishna says, the lust covers the knowledge of the soul, and Chaitanya Chandas will explain. I'll play his lecture shortly. I'll again play in two parts because there are important points he's explaining. He will explain how lust controls us, or how lust is our enemy, that how the lust uses our own energy against us. Let's hear from him and we'll come back to discuss. Everybody should be able to speak 1 or 2 points from his lecture. I'm playing in small chunks so that we can absorb And when you try to speak or repeat points, then you retain a lot more. So let's hear.
And then after that, Nitya Vairina. This is a frightening word actually. Now Krishna has said earlier in 3.37, Iha Vairina, this enemy here. But here the word is Nitya Vairi. Nitya Vairi means eternal enemy. So why eternal enemy? This enemy is such an enemy. If we have some enemy in this world, then that enemy will maybe torture us, kill us, and that's the end of the enmity. But this is an enemy which goes on lifetime after lifetime, lifetime after lifetime. So, in terms of identity, strategy, and longevity, this is our worst enemy. Longevity means this lust will keep tormenting us lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Longevity, nitya vairena. Then identity means what? Actually, most of the time we don't even come to know who is the enemy only. What happens for most people is they feel lusty, and when they feel that lust is not satisfied, when they feel angry because lust is not satisfied, then they think those people who did not allow me to satisfy my lust, they are my enemies. So rather than becoming angry with lust, they become angry with all the factors that are obstructing their fulfillment of lust. So it's identity. So what has happened is identity. We are not even able to identify the enemy. And then that sort of enemy is very dangerous. That's like a spy. If a spy has penetrated into the enemy ranks, then the enemy can be sabotaged from within. Because the enemy is okay, we'll shoot there, shoot there. But if the if an enemy, or we are, say, if a spy has penetrated into our ranks, and we are prepared for the enemy, where is the enemy? I'm going to shoot, and a spy comes from behind and blows a bomb under our feet only. So the spy can sabotage our efforts from inside. So like that, we are thinking our enemies are outside, but our enemies are actually inside. And that way, we get caught up. It's identity and strategy. What happens is normally when an enemy attacks us, the enemy attacks and we fight, and the enemy has to use its forces to curb us. But actually, when lust conquers, what does lust do? Lust uses our own force to destroy ourselves. How is that? When a person becomes lusty, then the person doesn't have to be forced to do bad things. Doesn't have to be forced to do wrong things. That person does wrong things oneself, and that is a tragedy. Right? And the people get so many nasty sexually transmitted diseases. So how do they get those diseases? Actually, it is they themselves went and indulged in those things, and that's how they got the diseases. So many ways people get such terrible complexities people get into. So rather than the enemy destroying ourselves, just as if there's a computer virus, once a virus comes into a computer, it uses our own computer space, it uses our own computer, the electricity that we are providing to the computer, and it uses our own computer's programmings and programming technological resources, and then it damages the computer. So like that, when lust comes in, it's that it turns our own resources against us. There's a person right there ready to shoot the enemy, and somebody comes along, hey, no, why are you pointing the gun there? Turn the gun here, point here, shoot now. So that's it. That's how Ajamil is a well-educated Brahmin, a cultured person. But what happened? He was stuck. He destroyed himself. That's how lust is nitya vairena, in terms of identity, in terms of strategy, in terms of longevity. Lust can destroy us. And that's why nitya vairena. For example, in movies, they may have songs, my heart is on fire. Or they may, in Hindi movies, they have songs like Sawan Jo Aag Lagaye. That's the fire that is lit in spring. Now, they also acknowledge the fire, but their illusion is what? That indulgence will extinguish the fire. But indulgence won't extinguish the fire. Indulgence will aggravate the fire. Why will it aggravate the fire? Because indulgence acts as a fuel. When it acts as a fuel, when a fuel is put in fire, the fire is going to blaze further. The fire is not going to get extinguished.
All right, what did he say?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Krishna.
That lust is our eternal enemy and it goes from lifetime to lifetime with us. And it controls us in terms of longevity and identity.
Okay, very good. What else? Some.
Yeah, also, we think that our enemies are outside, but actually they are inside.
Very good. Follow me.
Prabhuji, one thing I realized through this lecture is that about lust, it is our consent. And many cases we are unaware that we're giving the consent.
Yeah.
That's
Very
the
good.
major issue that he explained so nicely.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
you
lust
know,
uses our own resources against us. Very good.
against ourselves, yes.
Very good. Padma Kumar Prabhu wanted to say something. Okay, rest of you. Tara.
Hare
When,
Krishna Prabhuji.
Tara, go ahead.
indulgence will aggravate the fire and lust.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very important point. That many think, oh, let me just fulfill my lusty desires and I'll be done with it. No, it actually acts as fuel to fire. We have discussed this in earlier also, that when you have desire, indulgence is not going to help you. You have to purify your desire. You have to rise above rather than trying to satisfy the desire, because satisfying the desire only acts as fuel to fire. Okay, very good. Matan?
So when lust is not satisfied, people get angry, but they don't actually know it is the lust.
Yeah, very good. We have discussed this in 2.62, the fall down sequence. That's exactly what we have discussed, and Krishna is just explaining that same point again. Megha, somebody else also wanted to speak.
Yes, Prabhuji, lust is our enemy tormenting us for a lifetime. And second point which I heard was we never came to know identity, and identification is the main problem, that lust is our enemy.
Yeah, we don't even know. Like, we become angry on the person who is trying to stop us from fulfilling our lustful desires. Very good. Very good. Very good. All of you hearing with rapt attention. Follow me.
Prabhuji, one thing I realized through this as he spoke is that, with many cases, we don't know that the other external stimuli is exciting our lust. So one way, maybe to identify is that something that looks good, as you said, pratyaksha, but doesn't feel good in the long run. I'm getting angry. That can be a good identification, maybe, that this is then indeed lust, because otherwise, how will I identify?
Yeah, very good. Very good. All of you hearing with rapt attention. So I'll play the second part. Again, the second part of this last discussion of this 39 verse is again super heavy and eye-opener. Let's hear it, and we'll again come back to discussing. You all realize why I'm playing in small parts, so that we absorb everything and we come and discuss everything. Let's hear this.
So Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport here, it's a classic statement. He first says this world is like a Maithun Nagar. Now everybody here is shackled by sex life. It says criminals are kept within bars. Similarly, the criminals who are disobedient to the laws of the Lord are shackled by sex life. Now it's interesting. Nobody will think of sex life as a shackle. People think, oh, sex life is very enjoyable. Where is the shackle in that? But the shackle is that's what keeps us in the bodily conception of life. One cannot get into sexual enjoyment without thinking that I am the body. And thinking I am the body is the cause of bondage, is itself bondage actually, at one level. It's the bondage of misidentification. And beyond that, there is a further bondage that results when we act at the bodily platform. So, sex in that sense is a shackle. Why? Because the soul is here, say, and the body is here. So, the sex desire binds the soul to the body. Why it binds? Because the soul is. This is the way I want to enjoy, and to enjoy this way I need the body. And then Prabhupada makes another classic statement in the next statement only in the purport. Advancement of material civilization on the basis of sense gratification means increasing the duration of the material existence of a living entity. So advancement of material civilization on the basis of sense gratification. What does this mean? This means that if we think, what is progress? Progress means to find out newer and newer ways of sense gratification. If that's what we think as advancement, so then the result of this definition of advancement is that people get more and more entangled. Means increasing the duration of the material existence.
Okay, what did he explain?
Um, that sex life is a shackle, which causes the bondage in the body, and sex desires binds soul to the body, and advancement in the material advancement it's based on the sense gratification, which means we think progressing to find new ways to satisfy gratification, which will increase the duration of material existence.
Okay, very good. Tara captured almost all the point. That yeah, and nobody thinks sex life is a shackle. Arey Baba, it is shackle because it is binding you to the body. And he made a very good point that Tara repeated correctly. That people think material advancement is that newer and newer ways to enjoy is material advancement. No, that is increasing your bondage and entanglement in the material world. How is that advancement? Everybody on the same page? Okay, let me play one more part for this 39 verse, and we'll come back to discuss that part also.
Then Prabhupada further says in the purport, last sentence, while one enjoys sense gratification, it may be that there is some feeling of happiness. But actually that so-called feeling of happiness is the ultimate enemy of the sense enjoyer. So this is a statement that we can embed in our heart. Yes, the Prabhupada is giving concession over. Yes, there may be happiness. While one enjoys sense gratification, it may be that there is some feeling of happiness. We may say, no, not some feeling. The poets write so many songs about it, the movie is depicted so much, and there is so much, there's a lot of happiness there. Actually speaking, it's a huge amount of exaggeration. The body's capacity to enjoy is very limited, and we can't expand it no matter what we do. So there is some feeling of happiness, but even if we agree that there is some happiness, the point is that actually that so-called feeling of happiness is the ultimate enemy of the sense enjoyer. Why the ultimate enemy of the sense enjoyer? Because that feeling of happiness traps the person. How is it trap? When there is a mouse that has to be caught, the mouse is running around in the house, then some cheese or some other eatable suitable for the mouse is brought, and that is put in the mouse trap. And the mouse comes along and searching, it sees the cheese and it comes inside the trap, and as soon as it comes, the door of the mouse trap closes and it's trapped. So now that cheese, in eating that cheese there is some pleasure, no doubt, but that so-called feeling of happiness is not going to make the mouse happy. Actually it is going to make it miserable. It is going to cost its life also. So that means that feeling of happiness is the ultimate enemy. There is happiness, but that feeling of happiness is the enemy. Or like a fish and a bait. So when the bait is there and the fish catches the bait, and it initially eats, at that time, oh, it's so delicious, I want it. And you say, at that moment, the bait gets caught in the mouth and it gets trapped, it's pulled out. The fish is pulled out and then dragged out to its death. So like that, actually there is happiness. There may be some happiness, but that happiness is the enemy. So that is just like when a person is drinking. A person may feel I feel such a relief when I drink. But then After that, it is the ultimate enemy of the sense enjoyer. So the obnoxious is considered obnoxious because it is noxious. Obnoxious means that which is bad. Noxious means that which is poisonous. So actually, illicit sex, Prabhupada uses the word like abominable, obnoxious. Why does he use that word? It's not just a moral, it's not just a value judgment based on some outdated conceptions of morality. Oh, people in the past thought this is right and this is wrong. We have become modern, so we understand there's nothing wrong about it. These are not outdated conceptions of morality. This what is obnoxious because it is noxious. Noxious means poisonous. Lust is considered more poisonous than poison. Why? Actually, there is Visha and there is Vishaya. So Visha is poison, Vishaya is sense objects. So Visha destroys only after consumption, but Vishaya destroys just by contemplation. And on contemplation of sense objects, the consciousness starts getting contaminated, it starts getting poisoned, and eventually it's destroyed. So Visha is not as dangerous as Vishaya. Therefore, one has to be extremely cautious. So-called feeling of happiness is the ultimate enemy of the sense enjoyer.
All right, what did he say? Pretty heavy statements. Gulshan?
Prabhuji, he said while one enjoys, they maybe get some kind of happiness out of it, but that happiness is our ultimate enemy because it's more poisonous than the poison.
Very good. Rest of you, many of you have not spoken. You should speak key points quickly.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Thank you,
Like
sir.
happiness, it is a trap only. Like if we try to be happy in a lusty form, like we will be get trapped.
Okay, very good. What else? What's the statement he said should be embedded in our heart?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
That's good.
That feeling of that happiness is the ultimate enemy of the sense enjoyer.
Yeah, this should be embedded in our heart. He gave a very good two examples of a mouse getting trapped and a fish getting caught in trying to eat the bait. Yeah, this feeling of happiness is the ultimate enemy. This statement should be embedded in our heart. Yeah, very good. Everybody on the same page? Questions, comments, realizations? Still have a lot of talking to do about lust in the verses coming up. Has it been eye-opener so far?
Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
All right. So yes, so far Krishna has described about the problem, means enemy. The lust is our eternal enemy. That lust covers our consciousness, our intelligence. So the question will come up, okay, I have to control or destroy this lust, but first I need to know where is this enemy situated. So Krishna will describe in 3.40 where does the enemy reside, and I will again play Chitrachina's lecture for this point also. Okay, Nishan Prabhu, 3.40 translation.
Hare Krishna. 3.40. The senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. Hare Krishna.
So very important, like these important subtle parts of our body, mind and intelligence, senses. This is where the lust resides. And this is how the lust dilutes the soul. How lust dilutes the soul is that the lust covers the intelligence, the knowledge of the soul. So I'll again play Chitranjanda's lecture where he will explain that lust does not reside in a female form. Lust actually resides in the mind, the intelligence, and the senses of every single one. So whether it's a male or a female or any living entity, the mind, the intelligence, and the senses is where the lust resides. And about the female form, Chitran Chandas will do a very good job of explaining with an example. Let's hear from him again, and we will come back to discuss. I will again play in small chunks.
This is again a very significant point, that where is lust situated? Lust is situated in our own mind, in our own senses, in our own intelligence. Sometimes people say that, oh, some men may say, oh, we are just males. If women dress inappropriately, we will naturally become lusty. No, actually, lust is not situated in the female form. Lust is not situated in the female dress, the way female dress or don't female dress or not dress. That's a male may see a female, and male may get provoked. Now that same female may have a baby in her arms, and that baby may be touching the private parts of the female. That baby doesn't feel agitated. So if that lust were present just in the female form, then the baby should also feel agitated. Does this baby not feel agitated? Because lust is not present in the form. Lust is provoked through that form, but lust is present in our own mind, intelligence, and senses.
All right, what did he explain?
Prabhuji, he is explaining that lust is situated in our own mind, in our own senses.
Yeah, very good. So we have discussed from chapter 2 or even from chapter 1 onwards that at initial stages of my spirituality, I just cannot trust my mind. I just cannot trust my intelligence. I have to rely on Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra on a day-to-day basis. Everybody realizes the importance of this statement from the early discussion.
Yes, Prabhu.
What else did he explain?
Prabhuji, he compared the feeling with a child. If the lady is holding the child in her hands, the child is touching the private parts and still not feeling agitated with the lust. So the lust is all in mind. Otherwise, the child would have felt agitated too.
Very good. Lust is not in the female form. Yes, lust may be provoked by the female form. And for the female, lust may be provoked by the male form, but it's not present in the form. It's present in our own mind, intelligence, and senses. Very good. Somebody else also was trying to speak. All right. I'll play the next part of this lecture and we will come back to discussing.
It's interesting that we can understand that, okay, the lust is situated in senses, in the mind, but why is Krishna saying that lust is situated in the intelligence? Normally, we would expect that the intelligence is what frees us from lust, or intelligence is what enables us to see the danger of lust and try to free ourselves from it. So why does Krishna say that lust is situated in the intelligence also? Actually, in many cases, lust takes over the intelligence, and then after that, intelligence, instead of being used to curb lust, is used to fulfill lust. So, like as we discussed earlier about, say, internet, there is filth on the internet, and to put it there requires intelligence. But that intelligence is used to perpetuate and propagate illusion, not to eliminate illusion. So intelligence can also become perverted by lust. Prabhupada writes in a letter that Intelligence is meant to give up the enjoying mentality, but our problem is that we are habituated to enjoying intelligently. That means we use our intelligence to enjoy rather than to curb the enjoyment. Now, enjoyment in and of itself is not wrong. The soul is meant to enjoy. But there is enlightened enjoyment and there is ignorant enjoyment. So, enjoyment at the spiritual level is enlightened, at the body level is ignorant. So, at the very least, we should be in the transition. There is a regulated bodily enjoyment that is allowed, but the focus should be on trying to get more and more spiritual enjoyment. So lust occupies the intelligence also, and that is why in the sadhanaka stage, at least initially in our spiritual life, we cannot put too much trust in our intelligence. If we put too much trust in our intelligence, then the intelligence may mislead us.
Okay, what did he say? Some punchlines in this extract also. Somebody?
Prabhuji explained with an example of internet that how filth on internet needs intelligence. So intelligence helps us become free from lust. We must have thought this, but actually it is other way around.
Okay, yeah, so you can use intelligence either way. You use it for putting filth on internet, well, then you are using your intelligence incorrectly. But if you use intelligence to study scriptures, then you are using it properly. Okay, he gave some punchline.
He also said that lust takes over intelligence. So instead of just curbing it, our intelligence will use it to encourage it.
Very good. Very good. And what's the punchline he said for this point?
I think Prabhuji said intelligence is used to perpetuate and propagate illusion.
Okay, very good. So you are correct. He specifically said, I'll repeat his words, that Srila Prabhupada has said this, that intelligence is to give up the enjoying mentality. But our problem is that we are habituated to enjoy intelligently. Right? We are using our intelligence in a wrong way. And therefore, towards the end, he said that at our initial stages in the sadhaka stage, we cannot trust our intelligence at all because intelligence will mislead us. Questions, comments, realizations? I'll play the last part of this verse 40, where he will explain about material intelligence and spiritual intelligence. So yes, we may have material intelligence to work in the material world on a day-to-day basis, but that material intelligence is not going to take us to spirituality. So let's hear and we'll come back to discuss further.
If we trust our intelligence too much in the sadhaka stage, then we will get ourselves into trouble, because right now our intelligence is not trustworthy. Intelligence is sabotaged by lust. It is hijacked by lust right now. So what does this mean? Don't trust the intelligence too much. Of course, at a functional level, at a daily level, we have to use our intelligence. Okay, should I do this or should I do that? Should I go here or go there? At a normal level, should I go catch this bus or wait for the next bus? Should I use this? Should I say use this computer or that computer? Whatever. We have to make so many decisions, and we will have to use our intelligence over there. That is fine. We will use our intelligence because that intelligence is given for that purpose. But especially when we are doing activities which the scriptures have told are dangerous. So we can say we have material intelligence and spiritual intelligence. So material intelligence is the intelligence which directs us towards materialistic things. Spiritual intelligence is the intelligence which directs us towards Krishna. So spiritual intelligence primarily comes from Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. So material intelligence is the intelligence which is used in material things, and it's not necessarily always bad, but it has to be subordinate to spiritual intelligence.
Okay, what did he explain?
Hare Krishna
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna Prabhuji.
Gulshan, go ahead.
So in the initial stage of sadhakas, they shouldn't trust their intelligence much because it's hijacked by the lust. But we can use it for like doing daily activities like walking, like cooking.
Okay.
But for spirituality, we should only trust Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra.
Okay, very good. Nancy.
Yes, Prabhuji. So, as Gulshan explained, that we should not trust our intelligence in the sadhaka stage, but at the same time, in the spiritual, we should use our spiritual intelligence because the spiritual intelligence direct us towards the Krishna. So, in the form of Guru, Shastra, and Sadhaka.
Okay, very good. Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. Yeah. Questions, comments, realizations so far. So, follow me.
Prabhuji, this I think ties back to a line you mentioned that this intelligence that I have, I can use it for very like the animal activities, eating, sleeping, defense, mating, but it is not enough to do the spiritual activity. For that, I will need the help. Once I fix the goal of Krishna, then that help comes in the form of Guru, whom I go to and learn the process.
Okay, very good. Correct point. So you would have heard, or at least some would have remembered, my punch line from day one. Anybody remembers my punch line? I've been saying my punch line from first class. Anybody remember? What's my punch line? Anybody remembers? Nobody remembers? Anybody wants to know?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, for what?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, for what?
Know your punchline.
Okay, you should have remembered, or you should be there in your notes. You'll hear my punchline again and again. What is the verse for this? So whatever you say, whatever you hear, I cannot use my intelligence whether it is right or wrong. I have to correlate with Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam verse, and then make sense of it. Therefore, I am going to Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Shastra is Guru also, coming from Krishna. So my first is, yes, I am connecting with Shastra. If I don't get the answer from Shastra, then I will go to a senior devotee to get an answer. But whatever I see in the material world, whatever I hear in the material world, I don't use my intelligence. I connect it with verses from Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. This is known as Shastra Chakshu, that I am looking through the eyes of scripture. Therefore, you will keep hearing my punchline. What is the verse for this? Questions, comments, realizations? Okay, so far, Krishna has described the eternal enemy lust. Krishna has described that this eternal enemy lust resides in the senses, the mind, and intelligence, then covers the intelligence and the knowledge of the soul. And now, from 3.41 to 3.43, Krishna will explain how we can conquer this lust and anger. Chaitanya Prabhu, you have something to ask? Okay. Sumnima, 3.41 translation.
Therefore, O Arjuna, best of Bharatas, in the beginning curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses and slay the destroyer of the knowledge and self-realization. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So now that you know where the enemy is situated, so conquer it. How do you do it? You begin with intelligence by regulating your senses. That just as, say, a drunkard wants to get out of his drinking habit. Well, first he has to regulate, means first he has to stop going to the bar. That is stopping to go to the bar is step number one. And same applies for us, that we have to regulate our senses instead of unregulated enjoyment. We regulate, and little by little we will control. So Krishna will say this regulation alone is not going to help you. He will explain the second step also, that okay, start by regulating, but regulating alone is not going to help you. You will need to place yourself on the spirituality platform also. All right. Monarch Prabhu, 42 translation.
Hare Krishna. 3.42 translation. The working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind. And he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence.
So what you have on screen is the chariot body picture. That the example, the horses are the senses. The reins is the mind. The reins that are controlling the horses. And above the mind, so this person is intelligence. And in the chariot, the person sitting at the back behind yelling, what are you doing, is the soul, because the senses are out of control. So the proper hierarchy, 3.42 gives the proper hierarchy, that how it should be. Meaning, soul is the highest. Soul gives the instruction to intelligence. Intelligence gives instruction to the mind, and mind gives instruction to the senses, and then the senses are used properly for spiritual endeavors. But most people in the material world live this hierarchy upside down, that the senses are out of control, and then the mind is out of control, and the intelligence is yelling, what are you doing? And the soul is literally yelling, hey, what are you doing? Because the hierarchy for most in the material world is upside down. So we have to come to the point of regulation first, that regulate your senses. And simultaneously, the next verse Krishna will explain that how to situate yourself on spirituality. So for ideal situation to work, yes, soul should be fully aware of what the goal is, that okay, my goal is to go back home to Godhead. And how to get there is by doing bhakti yoga. The problem in this hierarchy given in 3.42 is that the attraction of the senses to sense objects is very strong and is the default setting in our body. Just like gravity pulls down, that's attraction of the senses to sense objects is the default setting, is like the gravity pulling us down. If we let our senses wander, they will by default rush to sense objects, because this is the default attraction, default setting in the body. By default, there is this downward pull in the hierarchy that pulls us towards sense enjoyment and sense objects. And by default, the mind will go to sense objects and we get into sense gratification. Therefore, there is something that has to stop this default downward pull. That first step is regulation, which Krishna explained in 3.41. So if say in the material world, male has attraction for female, female has attraction for male, well, then marriage is within the realm of dharma. So that is regulation. So first beginning is limitation on sense gratification. Unless senses are regulated at some basic level, one will not be able to think of anything higher. If senses are not regulated, one is indiscriminately engaging in sense gratification, then one cannot think seriously about spirituality at all, because lust is destroyer of knowledge. Therefore, first thing that one has to do is to stop the downward pull towards sense objects by regulating the sense enjoyment to certain limits. But Krishna will say that this stopping means the regulation, the forceful regulation, is not enough, because one will feel deprived of enjoyment. And Krishna will explain in the next 3.43 verse that simultaneous to regulation, we have to establish an upward connection, meaning connection with spirituality, connection with the Lord. Questions, comments, realizations? So I have given this drunkard example, and I have also explained the default ringtone example, and I'll repeat. So I explained the drunkard example. The example for this drunkard and the default ringtone on our cell phone is to explain the default setting in our body towards sense enjoyment. That if you buy a new phone or any device, it comes with a default ringtone. If you don't like the ringtone, then I will have to consciously change that ringtone. Otherwise, that default ringtone will ring, whether or not I like it. Similarly, our body has the default settings towards sense enjoyment based on past inclinations. Therefore, I have to consciously, forcefully regulate myself first. And then the next step is described in 3.43, the last verse for today and chapter 3. Raksha, 3.43 translation.
Hare Krishna. Thus, knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind and intelligence, O mighty armed Arjuna, one should steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, Krishna consciousness, and thus by spiritual strength conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. Hare
So
Krishna.
with one's intelligence, one should know oneself to be transcendental, that you are not this body, you are soul, which is Krishna's first instruction in 2.13. So situate the mind on spiritual platform using mind and conquer the formidable enemy lust. So the main message of this verse is Krishna is saying, situate yourself on the spiritual platform using your intelligence. So Krishna is saying, using intelligence, know that you are a soul. Maybe feeling like enjoying on bodily level, but I am not this body. Therefore, situate your mind on the spiritual platform. So question becomes, how do I situate mind on spiritual platform? The answer is, think spiritual thoughts. result will be one will go beyond the pull of the lust. So I give you spiritual endeavors every week, such as reading the verses that we have covered, listening to Prabhupada lectures, or doing whatever additional endeavors. These are your endeavors to put you on the spiritual platform throughout the week. So yes, on the weekend, you are coming for a couple of hours to listen. But then what do you do rest of the week? That's your spiritual endeavor. Therefore, endeavor. So the pull of the lust will be there as long as I think I am this body and I have to enjoy at the material level. If I situate myself on the spiritual platform, then I will experience spiritual happiness. Then the pull of the lust will no longer be there. Now question becomes, what does situating oneself on the spiritual platform mean? The answer is, the best way to situate oneself on the spiritual platform is that use your mind and intelligence to think of Krishna, to hear kirtan, to read scriptures, to listen to Prabhupada lectures. Then we will experience higher happiness, and thus lust becomes conquered. So the mood and the confidence of the devotee is that he knows that lust is very powerful. I cannot conquer lust on my own. But if I can have Krishna situated in my heart, in my mind, in my intelligence, then Krishna will protect. Krishna will drive away temptation. Krishna in the mind, intelligence, and the heart is the strongest deterrent against lust and other anarthas. Because Krishna will give me the higher taste of spirituality. Therefore, the temptation of the lower taste will go away and will no longer be appealing. So the conclusion or the message of this chapter 3 is how to situate ourselves on the spiritual platform is by constantly thinking about Krishna. I have given you so many practical aspects like memorize verses. I have given you from early morning. Wake up at a spiritual verse time. When you are taking shower, memorize verses. When you are doing activities to get ready, memorize verses. When you are driving, look at number plates and recite or memorize or read verses. When you reach office, you memorize verses at the time of office. When you have meeting times, you memorize verses. Same thing when you come back. When you sleep, read Krishna book one page or even look at pictures. All these are activities that make you remember Krishna. So at sadhaka stage, I do not have spontaneous attraction for Krishna. Therefore, there has to be conscious cultivation by diligent sadhana every day. So Krishna has given two recommendations. In 3.41, he says restrain, means regulate your senses. That don't let the senses engage in unregulated way. If there is no restraint, if there is no regulation, then there is constant sense gratification. There is no possibility to think of Krishna. And then he gave the next step of in 3.43 is to redirect, means situate yourself on the spiritual platform. So by doing these two things, one can control and conquer the lust. So I want all of you to go to chapter 2, verse number 61. So I had explained that chapter 2 is at a summary high level, and then later chapters is explained at a granular level. I'm going to show you an example for this. So 2.61, the first line says, tani sarvani samyamya. You read the translation for 2.61 word for word, that it says those senses, all those senses, keep them under control. And if you read 3.41, it's exactly 2.61 first line. That's what Krishna says in 3.41, regulate your senses. Then if you go back to 2.61, the second line, it says yukta asita mat paraha. Read the word for word translation, that engage, or you should be situated in relationship with me. And that's exactly what Krishna is explained in 3.43. The first and the second line is identical to 2.62 second line. So I'm just giving you an example. We don't have to have a exact for every single verse. I'm just trying to explain a principle here. The chapter 2 is a summary, and then rest of the chapters is explained in a granular form. Questions, comments, realizations. We have completed chapter 3. Okay. So I'm going to bring up on screen the spiritual endeavor that you had about 3.34. Have undivided attention on this 3.34 spiritual endeavor. Many of you did very good job at listening or reading and submitting your spiritual endeavor on the Google form. So let's discuss. I will bring up on screen and I will read from the screen important points that Prabhupada is making in 3.34 purport. So first, he says that those in Krishna consciousness are naturally reluctant in sense gratification because they have experienced higher happiness, and material sense gratification, happiness, seems insignificant. Therefore, why should I lose the opportunity of higher happiness by getting entangled in the lower pleasures? So those who are not in Krishna consciousness should follow the rules and regulations of revealed scriptures so that they can regulate. Now, next point, he says that as long as material body is there, the necessities of material body are allowed, but under rules and regulation. But we should not rely upon the control of such allowances. A very important point. That we should not rely upon the control of such allowances. What does it mean? That marriage is a control plus a protection from engaging in sinful activity. So the purpose of marriage is not just sense gratification, but purpose of marriage is for both spouses to come together to serve Krishna. That way you develop the higher taste of spirituality. If this purpose is forgotten, means the purpose of serving Krishna, then marriage just fuels one's sense gratification desires. Desires may become so great that it burns away all intelligence, and one may no longer follow dharmic restrictions. So it's very important point he says that we should not rely on the control of this allowance that is given, that you have marriage and you can have unregulated sense gratification. That's a misunderstanding. I will soon explain more. Let's first discuss 3.34. Further, Srila Prabhupada says, there can be accidents on the royal road. Royal road, Prabhupada says, means arrangements are provided by Shastra for gradual purification. What does this mean? That when one is following the regulative principles, one should not assume that the regulative principles will themselves protect. No, regulative principles act as a safeguard. But we have to recognize what is it that we have to have safeguard against. Means we need to guard against sense indulgence. Otherwise, the safeguard means the rules and regulations will no longer guard us. It's a pretty heavy purport. Another point Prabhupada makes is significant point that sex enjoyment is necessity for the conditioned soul and is allowed under marriage. So the wording is very significant that Prabhupada is using, that sex enjoyment is not a necessity for the soul. Sex enjoyment is not a necessity for regulated soul. Rather, sex enjoyment is for a conditioned soul. What does necessity mean? That is it an absolute necessity for everyone to have sex? So the word necessity here does not refer to physical necessity, but it refers to psychological necessity. That if a person does not engage in sex, the person is not going to die. Sex is not a necessity on the level of food or sleep or water. Food, sleep, water, etc. are absolute necessities without which we cannot survive. But for most, sex is not a necessity. It is just a necessity because one is conditioned. And then Srila Prabhupada says, no one should try to be detached from Krishna consciousness. Many think our suffering is because of attachment. No, our suffering is because we are detached from Krishna. So I request all of you to please take a snapshot of what you have on the screen and read it multiple times. And I will pause here for any questions, comments, realizations. Silence, I got silence. Okay. So right now, I will first answer questions that are related to 3.34. So the first three questions are related questions. I'll first read the three questions and then I'll discuss the solution together. So first question is related to 3.34. What are the rules and regulations to perform any material duties? Second question is, how to perform any material duties under rules and regulations without being attached to them? The third question is, how to follow rules and regulations and how do we know that we are unattached to them? So I will bring up on screen Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 32. And I'm going to send this to you, so you don't need to worry about it. I'm going to post it in the chat right now. Let me first explain. So these verses, Lord Kapila Devi is speaking. Lord Kapila is Krishna himself. The first four verses describe Grahamidi lifestyle. That those who are in family life, who are only focused on dharma, artha, kama, or higher sense gratifications, they want to go to heaven to enjoy. Meaning those who are following karma kanda, or even those who are following varnashram system, for sense gratification only. Varnashram means you are married, but you are following your marriage only for sense gratification. Well, you are Grahamedi. Grahamedi means you are attached at bodily level for sense gratification. Such Grahamedi is attached and unintelligent. And then verses go on. I'm going to send this to you. So the first 4 verses talk about Grahamedi. We don't have to be Grahamedi. And verse 5, 6, and 7 describe Grahastha lifestyle, who are householder. So Grahamedi is also householder. Grahastha is also householder. But the Grahastha householder perform their activities for purification only. And such Grahastha is detached and intelligent. Right now, we're going to read 3.32.6 translation and purport from the screen. And we'll discuss, come back to the questions. Let's see who has not read. Deepa, are you able to read from the screen this 3.32.6 translation and purport?
No, Prabhuji.
All right. Dhara.
Hare Krishna. Translation. By executing one's occupational duties, acting with detachment and without a sense of proprietorship or false egoism, one is posted in one's constitutional position by dint of complete purification of consciousness, and by thus executing so-called material duties, he can easily enter into the kingdom of God.
Okay, so pause here. So one of the question was, how do I do my material duties? So Lord Kapila is saying that in your purified consciousness, you will execute your so-called material duties with detached. He says here, act with detachment without sense of proprietorship. Okay, continue, purport.
Purport. Here the word nivritti dharma nirataha means constantly engaging in executing religious activities for detachment. There are 2 kinds of religious performances. One is called pravritti dharma, which means the religious activities performed by the grahamedis for elevation of higher planets or for economic prosperity, the final aim of which is sense gratification. Every one of us who has come to this material world has the sense of overlordship. This is called pravritti. But the opposite type of religious performance, which is called nivritti, is to act for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Engaged in devotional service in Krishna consciousness, one has no proprietorship claim, nor is one situated in false egoism of thinking that he is God or the master. He always thinks himself the servant. That is the process of purifying consciousness. With pure consciousness only can one enter into the kingdom of God. Materialistic persons in their elevated condition can enter any one of the planets within this material world, but all are subjected to dissolution over and over again.
Right. So the question says, how do I perform my material duties? Well, do it as a service. Therefore, Lord Kapila, who is Krishna himself, said that don't do it the pravarti marg. Pravarti is the karma kanda or the grahamedi marg, where they are doing the material duties for sense enjoyment. So he says, do it for the satisfaction of the Lord. So even your day-to-day material world duties, dovetail it in Krishna consciousness and do it for the satisfaction of the Lord. I've explained few examples. As long as your material duty is honorable material duty, you do it for the pleasure of the Lord. There are 2 steps. One is that whatever you earn, you use it in Krishna's service. And the other is, we'll discuss in 8.7, which is pre-action meditation, that before doing the activity, while doing the activity, and even after the activity, you are continuously thinking about Krishna. That way, everything gets offered to Krishna. I'll pause here for any questions, comments, realizations.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Nancy, go ahead.
So Prabhuji, how do we develop that feeling that we are doing this activity for Krishna or not for ourselves?
So do it as devotional service. So in scriptures, specifically in Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita also, it gives you examples for how to use all your senses in service of the Lord. I mean, all of the senses are pretty easy to understand. You can use your hands to clean the temple, cut fruits and vegetables, legs you use to walk to the temple. The biggest challenge comes with sense reproductive organ. So I'll bring up on screen and we'll read that sex with spouse, married spouse, should be only for procreation of Krishna conscious children. Otherwise, sex with spouse is also considered illicit. I'll bring up on screen the verse for this from Canto 7. So many think, so we read the same point in 3.34, that don't think that the regulations are going to protect you if you are not careful. So regulations are there. Yes, they act as a fence. But you have to be conscious of what you are indulging in. So here is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, chapter 12, verse number 11. Monarch Prabhu has a very strong voice. Monarch Prabhu will read the translation and the purport, and I will switch the page.
Hare Krishna. Translation: all the rules and regulations apply equally to the householder and the sannyasi, the member of renounced order of life. The grihastha, however, is given permission by the spiritual master to indulge in sex during the period favorable for procreation. Purport: it is sometimes misunderstood that a grihastha, a householder, is permitted to indulge in sex at any time. This is a wrong conception of grihastha life. In spiritual life, whether one is grihastha, vanprastha, sannyasi, or brahmachari, everyone is under the control of spiritual master. For brahmacharis and sannyasis, there are strong restrictions on sexual indulgence. Similarly, there are strong restrictions for grihasthas. Grihasthas should indulge in sex life only in accordance with the order of the Guru. Therefore, it is mentioned here that one must follow the orders of the spiritual master, Guru Vritter Vikalpena. When the spiritual master orders, the grihastha may accept sex life. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7.11. Dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi. Indulgence in sex life without disobedience to the religious rules and regulations constitutes a religious principle. The grihastha is allowed to indulge in sex life during the period favorable for procreation and in accordance with the spiritual master's order. If spiritual master's orders allow a grihastha to engage in sex life at a particular time, then the grihastha may do so. Otherwise, if the spiritual master orders against it, the grihastha should abstain. The grihastha must obtain permission from the spiritual master to observe the ritualistic ceremony of Garbhadharan Sanskar. Then he may approach his wife to beget children, otherwise not.
Okay, so comes directly from scripture that when you take permission from spiritual master, then you can have sex with your married spouse only to beget Krishna conscious children. What this means is, if your ability is to have one child, then you will have sex one time with your wife, and that's it. If your ability is to have two children, then you will have sex with your spouse 2 times, and that's it. So the questions on the screen related to 3.34 are that what are these rules and regulations for material duty? So all the rules and regulations described in Bhagavad Gita are the rules and regulation means to make it as devotional service. And how to perform material duties, we read and we discussed that when you do it as a service, then your material duty is perfect. Otherwise, it's subject to contamination. I will pause here for any questions, comments, realizations, and then I will answer the next 2 questions.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Go ahead.
So Prabhu, in this verse, it is recommended that one should get advice from the spiritual master. Prabhu, what about those who have not taken Diksha?
So you can still follow the rules and regulation in ISKCON are pretty straightforward. You are reading scriptures. Scriptures provide. We discussed in 2.64. There are 4 regulative principles. You can start by that. And also work towards getting a spiritual master. We'll soon discuss for those of you who will be attending Nectar of Devotion very soon in batch 5. Nectar of Devotion gives a list of 64 items of devotional service. The first 5 items basically are related with spiritual master. It says get initiated. That's the instruction number 1. Get a bona fide spiritual master, get initiated, and get instruction from your spiritual master. Otherwise, it's very difficult to progress by yourself. So you all are doing very good. But what I'm saying is take the next step. So whatever has happened until up to now, you can undo. But at least on a go-forward basis, based on what we are discussing and reading from scriptures, take the next step of getting initiated at some point of time. So start thinking. Mona Prabhu, does that help and rest of you?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Rest of you? Does that answer the first 3 questions?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Now, this question number 3 about how to follow rules and regulations and how do we know to we not be attached. So this will get covered in Nectar of Instruction. The word is niyam agraha. So there are 2 meanings given to niyam agraha. Niyam means rules. And there are 2 meanings to the word agraha. One says that one is following the rules just for the sake of following. And the other is one is whimsically giving it up. So I'll give the example. Say somebody building a temple. It's described in Nectar of Instruction that somebody is building a temple for Krishna. And he says that I should have an east-facing temple. Otherwise, I cannot build because that's what the scripture says. Or somewhere he read or somebody said. But then he forgets that the temple is a place to glorify the Lord and associate with devotees. So the primary purpose is to glorify the Lord and associate and serve devotees. The east facing is secondary. So if I don't get a land or I cannot build a temple which is east facing and therefore I do not build the temple, well, you are stuck on rules and regulations for no reason. Everybody on the same page? All right. Question number 4. Can a person who is not Krishna conscious regulate his raga and dvesha by any way? Yes, it is possible. You would see many in the material world who do have some level of tolerance, who are compassionate, But what happens is, without Krishna consciousness, it is very difficult for them to sustain those qualities. Just as, say, you are building a high-rise building, you need a strong foundation and then the building will stand and not shake. Similarly, Krishna consciousness is the foundation on which you develop all these qualities as well as you are able to sustain. So material people can also develop. There's no restriction. It's just that to sustain those qualities just by themselves is little difficult. Does that answer the question? Okay, last question for today. So this is related to 3.34 directly. I mean, all these are. Necessities of the material body is allowed under rules and regulation, but it also mentions practice of sense gratification under regulation also to be avoided. So can you please explain this ambiguity and what are those principles and regulations? So we already discussed this ambiguity in the slide that I gave before for 3.34, that sense gratification is for conditioned soul, not for pure soul. As long as you are conditioned in the material world, okay, that concession is allowed. But you have to regulate yourself rather than indulging in sense gratification. And I described, we read from the verse Srimad Bhagavatam 7.12.11, that sex with spouse should be only to beget Krishna conscious children. And that's it. If you have capacity for one child, then one time, that's it. And in terms of what are those rules and regulations, so we have discussed in 2.64, as well as I will repeat that there are 4 regulations to follow, restrictions to follow, which are no meat eating, no illicit sex, no intoxication, and no gambling. Plus, of course, the positive rule is that you have to chant at least 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra every single day. Does that answer the question? Okay. The last point that I want to discuss today is about spiritual endeavor for Prabhupada lecture. So many of you did very good listening to Prabhupada lectures, and I have 24 slides for Prabhupada lecture. So you don't need to take a snapshot. I'm gonna post it in the chat. You can just download. I will first walk you through these 24 slides and you will realize. So from here is, sorry, I'm on the wrong page. From here is slide number 1. And the first 4 slides are what devotees had few points from Prabhupada lecture. Then I have a blank page as a divider. And then I have devotees who have a lot of points. And I've left the numerical count from 1. And at the bottom, I have said devotee 1, slide 1 of 2. So this devotee number 1 had so many points, so I have 2 slides. Then devotee number 2 also has 2 slides. So I have 2 slides for the devotee number 2. Then devotee number 3 has 3 slides. So I have 3 slides for the devotee number 3. Similarly, devotee number 4 has 2 slides. And then devotee number 5 has 4 slides. So I have 4 slides and I have left the numerical count from 1 for each of the devotee. Similarly, devotee number 6 also has 4 slides because they had captured so many points. And then devotee number 7 has 1 slide and devotee number 8 also has 1 slide. So I'm going to post these Prabhupada lecture as well as the the Srimad Bhagavatam verses in the chat, and you can just download and read it at your convenience. So first is Srimad Bhagavatam. So I posted that. And then I have Srila Prabhupada lecture points. I posted that also. So download and you can please read at your convenience. We are just past 11:45 a.m. here in Toronto time. Was that a super heavy discussion today?
Yes, Prabhu, very super heavy, but again, very important.
Very good. So all of you are doing pretty good on Srila Prabhupada, listening to Prabhupada lecture. So I'm not going to post the link again for you to populate points, but you should continue to listen to Prabhupada lecture exactly how you did earlier. And if you are not doing it, then I have given you resources. You should follow and try to do the same. The point I mentioned at the start, I will repeat that Sumnima is from Nepal. I will post a number again. If you want class recordings, please get it from Sumnima, because many times I am occupied, and Sumnima is very diligent in sending the recording to whoever asks for it. And I will also bring up again on screen the schedule for batch 5, which is Sunday 9:30 a.m. from 26 January onwards. Nectar of Instruction starts, then Nectar of Devotion will follow, then Shishopanishad will follow, and then Srimad Bhagavatam will follow. So many of you have signed up to join these additional classes. You will hear from me to get a template to print. If any one of you are interested, you can please connect with me. So again, you will have to let me know specifically. Only then I will send you the template, and I will send you a link to also join the batch 5 WhatsApp group. If anybody who don't hear from me, those who have signed up within this week, then by all means, please connect with me. Are we okay to stop here?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.